Hello, this is Dave Tosh, the Executive Director of the Wenatchee Valley Senior Activity Center, and today I'm with Galen Miller, longtime member of the Senior Center. He's now residing at Prestige Living at Colonial Vista here in Wenatchee, and we wanted to visit today on a beautiful fall afternoon. It's always good to have some fresh air, and it kind of livens things up a little bit, I say, when we can enjoy some of that. Galen and I have known each other for, I'd say probably 5 or 6 years now. Mm-hmm. And Galen and his wife Wanda were regulars at the Senior Center at lunchtime. Saw them several times during the month. And Wanda even played the piano. She filled in to play the piano from time to time when we needed some help. And so Galen has always been one of my favorites in terms of his background, what he's accomplished in his life, the fact that he has stayed in very good health, and I wanted him to address some of that as to what he's done to keep himself in good health. He still exercises regularly, and I think it's good for everyone to hear some of that once in a while. And hopefully, over the next several years, I'll be able to stay on a regimen and keep going like Galen has over the years with a good exercise routine. I know that he'll talk a little bit about some of his excursions where he's gotten out and about in the countryside and traveled all over the country and done a lot of neat things, and we'll let him talk about that. But Galen came to the Wenatchee Valley in the early 70s. He was a minister out at the Sunny Slope Church for a good many years. And we have some folks that we know in common. Wayne Doan was a friend of Galen's, and I'll just make a quick little story here. I'll try to make it quick. But Wayne's brother Ron was a Kashmir pharmacist. Mm-hmm. And when I was growing up, Ron had children my age, and in fact, one of his sons, Ken, was a classmate of mine. But Ron would load up his station wagon full of kids and take them hiking up all over in the high country. I don't know that we ever went to the same place twice, but certainly up to Icicle and a lot of other places. And Ron was notorious for getting lost. He would get off the trails with all the kids, and then he'd have to get them all in a group. And once they got off the trail, they had to find the trail again. I've got some personal stories about some real fond memories of doing that. And I know Galen spent a lot of time in the outdoors as well. I've talked enough about Dave Tosh. I think at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Galen and just have him talk a bit about his experiences in the Wenatchee Valley as a minister. And obviously, we want to hear him speak a little bit about the Senior Center as well. So Galen, what can you tell us about your experiences in the Valley?
We came in 1972 to interview at the Church of the Brethren in Sunnyside, or on the west side of it.
Sunny Slope.
Sunny Slope.
Yeah.
And as Juan and I drove in on Highway 2, we came over, and we had never been to Wenatchee before, but as we came over the hill, just west of town, and there the valley with the Wenatchee River and the Columbia River and the orchards and all of that spread out so beautifully in front of us. We looked at each other and we said, whether we get this job or not, we're going to stay here. And we did. We got the job and we stayed. That was in '72. And I was pastor at the Sunny Slope Church of the Brethren for 7 years, and then became the district executive for the Church of the Brethren for the states of Oregon and Washington. And I remained at that until I retired when I was 69. And
well, that was quite a few years ago.
Yeah,
You're 100.
That was a day or two ago.
You're 102 now, so that was over 30 years ago. You've been retired, yeah.
After we retired from the ministry, the district executive job, Wanda and I bought a 35-foot fifth-wheel trailer, pulled it with a Ford pickup, and for 5 years we traveled the country over. And that was a great, great experience. You could just go wherever you wanted to go, see whatever you wanted to see, and you always had a comfortable bed to sleep in. And so we did that for 5 years.
Yeah.
That was a great time.
You said you retired in what year again?
I'm sorry,
You
what?
retired, what year did you retire from the
I was
ministry?
69 years old when I
Yeah.
retired, officially retired. Ministers, in a sense, don't retire. And so I frequently would do a short-term interim pastorate. We went to Ohio and did a 9-month interim pastorate at the church in Ohio, a 4-month interim in Idaho, in New Plymouth, Idaho, and then also in Idaho, I did an 9-month interim at the Church of the Brethren in Nampa, Idaho. And while I was the pastor there, they had the city inspection of their building, a real old brick building, downtown Nampa. And the result was that they said, you're going to have to spend a major amount of money to bring this building up to par, up to code. And so we got into that kind of a conversation with the members of the Nampa Church, and I said, well, if you ever do sell this building and buy and start to build a new one, let me know. I'll come and do your plumbing for you. And I don't know, a month or 6 months later, here came a phone call from the Nampa Church wanting to know if I was serious about doing the plumbing in that new building. And I was, and Wanda and I went over and they put us up in the basement of the apartment of a house, one of their members, and I did the plumbing in their new church building.
So you had two careers. You were a plumber. You were a plumber and a minister. You had two careers.
It's been interesting to have those two careers. One is a minister and one is a plumber. They were both fun to do.
I recall some of our conversations at the Senior Center, one of which was your trips to the Grand Canyon. You want to talk a little bit about the Grand Canyon?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My son Jim and I, he lives in Silverton, but he and I have backpacked into the Grand Canyon, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. And the one that is worth talking about was when I was 91 and 10 months. In other words, 2 months short of 92 years old. 5 members of my family and I backpacked into the Grand Canyon. I've always thought that was pretty neat to be at that age to backpack into the canyon. So, but the 5 of us did it. But when Jim and I would go, we would hike clear to the bottom in one day, and then when we were ready to come out, we'd hike all the way out in one day. but as a concession to my 91 plus years, we took 2 days to go down and 2 days to come out, staying at Indian Gardens, which is halfway down, is a backpack campground. And so we stayed there overnight, going down, and overnight coming up.
How many days total was the trip, that last one?
That was 5 or 6.
And how many miles did you traverse? How many miles round trip?
Oh, it's 10 miles from the rim down to the bottom of the canyon at Phantom Ranch. But don't get me started on that, because the mule trains also travel that trail, and I swear they just tear it up something fierce.
Yeah.
The mule feet just really tear up the trail. I was surprised when I went down this time with the family how bad the trail really was, and I've often thought the mule train should be at South Abaquah Trail, which is about 5 miles east of the main trail, the honey, and let the mules tear it up. It's a lousy trail to begin with, and save the Bright Angel Trail for hikers.
Yeah.
But they get paid good money by the mule train people.
Yeah, I remember growing up here again back in the 60s and going up into the high country. There was a bunch of the trails up the icicle that they allowed pack animals to go on, and how they would tear up the trail, especially if there was some water, you know. Yeah, they'd have to build small little bridges over the muddy areas.
Jim and I, my oldest son, as I mentioned earlier, he and I hiked down the canyon several times. And on one of them, after we got down to the Phantom Ranch, we then, the next day, hiked 10 miles east, upriver, up the Colorado River, to a place called Clear Creek. And the interesting thing about Clear Creek is that about 6 miles north of where you camp at Clear Creek, the Clear Creek water comes pouring out of a hole in the wall, about just below the rim. There's this big hole in the wall, and Clear Creek comes out of that hole, and so it's fun to see that pouring down the mountainside. I didn't realize what I was into going up, but coming back after we saw that, the trail up the Clear Creek is mostly on huge boulders, and the Clear Creek water is down below. And I didn't realize it going up, but coming back, it occurred to me, what we're seeing now is a reversal of the process that started at the Grand Canyon millions of years ago. The Colorado River cut the Grand Canyon through there, and the walls were cut and down into to make the canyon. Now the reverse process is underway. As time goes by, the walls of the canyon are beginning to erode, and they're pouring down into the canyon, so that in another millions of years, there won't be a canyon there anymore.
Yeah.
It'll just be a little dimple in the mountainside. But
Did you do a lot of hiking, backpacking here in our area?
every summer we had a backpack from the Sunny Slope Church. And most of the time we went up the Wenatchee River, and some of the mountain trails up that part of the Cascades, and one summer we were up there and we got caught in a snowstorm, and it really poured down snow, and pretty soon we were hiking on snow, and we stopped to rest a little bit, and somebody slipped their backpack off, and it bounced when it hit the ground and slid, 100 or 200 feet down from the trail down the side of the mountain. And I can still see Galen skiing down that mountainside with his boots on, skiing down there, rescuing that backpack for the person who'd lost it.
Well, Galen, you've stayed in really good health, and I think a lot of it has to do with exercise. So, could you tell us a little bit about your exercise regimen and what you've done over the years? I know you're cycling a stationary bike right now. You're doing that I think you said every day.
Yeah.
But what can you tell us about the importance of that?
Mostly when I was the pastor and that sort of thing, I would run 3 or 4 miles every morning.
Wow.
And that was pretty good when I was at the Sunny Slope Church, because there's the irrigation ditch there with a trail, a road alongside the ditch for maintenance, and so it's a nice smooth place to run. Mm-hmm. And I'd run 3 or 4 miles every day while I was pastor there. And but here I have what's called an Airdyne. It's a Schwinn machine that has handlebars that go back and forth, but also pedals that go up and down. So it's like riding a bike, except that the handlebars are going back and forth instead of just sitting there still. And so here at the Colonial Vista, I put 4 miles on that thing every morning and every afternoon. And that's pretty good exercise.
Yeah.
4 miles on that thing. And once in a while, when the weather has been clear, after doing the 4 miles, I would walk around the building on the outside, the big parking lot and around the end of the building, and then down between 2 of the buildings on the other side, so that I not only got the 4 miles on the Airdyne, I could get this additional walk around the building. But in the smoky weather like this has been, I don't go outside.
Yeah.
I don't want to breathe that smoke.
Yeah, it's been somewhat smoky. It seems like every September we have a dose of smoke these last several years.
But that Airdyne is a pretty good wrinkle. And
so has that been just since you moved to Colonial Vista that you've been doing that, or did you exercise that way previous?
No, we had it when, I don't recall just when I did buy that thing.
Yeah.
But I've had it many years.
Uh-huh. And you
I just
typically
don't remember when I bought it.
But you typically
10 or 15 years anyway.
But you ride every time you get on it, you go 4 miles. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Wow. And you're on it every day.
Yeah. Well, twice a day, morning and afternoon.
Wow. No wonder you're doing so well. Well, Galen, you've lived here quite a few years, and we've talked about that. I'd say you're getting close to what, 50 years in the Valley? 50? Yeah, 50. You're getting close to it anyway.
Yeah.
You know why I know that? I just celebrated my high school class reunion, 50 years, and I graduated in 1970, so that's how I knew that, right? I didn't even have to figure it out. Anyway, tell us a little bit about the changes you've seen in the Valley since you moved here in the early 70s.
Mostly the loss of orchards and the building of houses.
Yeah.
I guess that's progress, all right, but I prefer the orchards.
Yeah.
They're green and anyhow, that's the major change. And then, of course, the increase in population, Wenatchee's population in general, really booming. And so that presents some of the problems of a growing city. And right now they're talking about building a new bridge across the Wenatchee River, west of the one that's there now. And for a long time, I have felt that there needed a bridge across the Wenatchee that is in line with Western Avenue on the Wenatchee side. And then you could make a bypass right around the city cross that bridge and then along Western Avenue and maybe go clear to Crawford. But those are the kind of changes that are obvious, I think. And then, of course, the town Toyota and the making the Pybus market.
Yeah.
All of those are signs of progress, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you hit it on the nail. I think you moved here because of the beauty of the valley. I think there's a lot of other people that have discovered the beauty of this valley, and they're all moving in here. A lot of people can work from home now, and with the computers and technology, they don't have to even go to work in some cases. So, in a office building, so they can live in Wenatchee and telecommute or whatever they do. But I grew up in the valley, so I know a little bit about the changes that I've seen as well, and I don't know that they're all.
Well, I know we have never regretted that original decision as we drove over the hill and said we're going to stay here. We've never regretted staying in Wenatchee.
I was going to ask you if you remember, you and Wanda used to come to lunch and you would participate when we had theme days and dress up.
Yeah.
You remember the sweater?
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you won a prize for that because of the originality of the whole thing, but maybe you remember that story about the sweater that you wore that day to lunch.
Let's see. It's just a real weird striped sweater that Wanda hated. And whenever I would go down the Grand Canyon, and of course I'd wear the sweater, and she'd talk to Jim and try to persuade him to find a way to lose that sweater while you're down in the canyon. And of course we never lost it. We always had it, and still have it. And part of the story of that is that my younger son, Randy, who lives in Southern California, we now send that sweater back and forth in the mail to each other. We don't tell anybody or don't tell each other when it's coming or anything about it. Just one day that sweater will show up in the mail. And Wanda always hated it. She just wished that something would happen to that sweater.
Yeah, there's some of those things that some of those stories I'll just never forget because they were so entertaining at the time, and I can't wait until the day we can get reopened over there. And,
Oh, yeah.
And you can come over and have lunch with us and do
right.
some of the same stuff that we've done over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, there were some really good days at the senior center. Well, for a while we were there almost every lunch.
Well, Galen, you're 102, which means that you were born in 1918, and that was about the time they had the Spanish flu. And you of course don't remember any of that, but what are your memories about what your parents might have had to say about the Spanish flu and any similarities?
They didn't talk about it. We lived through it. We were living in Idaho at the time, a very rural kind of town, and I guess it didn't hit that town very hard because Mom and Dad never had it, and I don't remember as a small child hearing them talk about it very much, but it's just kind of fun to say, I've already lived through one pandemic.
And what are your thoughts about the current situation? I know you have to spend a lot of time in your room. You're not able to come down for meals, and congregate at all. You're having to just stay isolated, so to speak. So you have some thoughts about all that?
It's the way we have it. We're having to live in order to meet this pandemic business. As you know, we always had the full dining hall here. There were people here, stallings, and anyhow, we had the dining hall full for our meals, all 3 meals a day, full dining hall. And then this pandemic business started, and we had to stop eating in the dining hall, and that means they service our meals in our rooms. We order the food. I ordered 3 meals ahead of time, and they delivered it to our rooms, and we're eating it by ourselves. And there's nothing you can do about that, but it's just no fun.
Yeah.
We all hope, of course, that pretty soon they'll open up the dining hall again. But even when they open up, with the pandemic going on, the tables, instead of having a whole dining hall full of people, they set the tables about 12 feet apart, and only one person to the table, unless you're married or father and son or something like that. So I'm at a table here, and a little closer than to him would be the next person at their table. Well, there's no conversation that way. And so that's what we're living with right at the moment. I don't know what it's going to take in order to allow them to open up the dining hall again, but we all hope that it can be opened up pretty soon. A couple of interesting personality events here. The man who has been the director of Colonial Vista retired or resigned and I don't know whether it was sudden or not, but he resigned, and the lady who was the assistant now runs the place. And then it was in the paper that Campbell,
Carl Campbell,
died the other day.
yeah.
He had been living in what they call a penthouse on above the fourth floor, and so he died. Of course, he didn't own the company anymore.
No.
And, but we've had those two personnel changes.
Yeah, Carl Campbell, just to say, he meant a lot to the senior center. He was the one that really boosted the project to get the senior center built originally. He donated a lot of his labor and some of his, the folks that he
from what the paper said, he was quite a philanthropist.
Yeah, he helped us out a lot over the years. Yeah. Really good man. Yeah, we're going to miss him. Well, Galen, obviously we've talked about your exercise regimen, but along with that, what kind of thoughts can you leave with this younger generation coming up? What would be your thoughts to pass on to the younger generation to stay healthy and active, and what kind of what kind of thoughts would you have to pass on to those
the
folks?
Traditional stuff: diet, exercise, and
what about the social part?
Yeah, to me that's important. The social part. That's why I miss the dining hall. Back at its original way, where we were. It was a full house. That was social. I've always been kind of a social person anyway.
Yeah.
And,
well, that's why you came to the senior center to have lunch, not just the lunch, but to mix with people you knew and talk to folks. I know that you and your wife Wanda were there a lot, and really, your table was always full. Did you ever notice that?
Right.
You never sat by yourself. That's the one thing I remember. Yeah. In fact, somebody sat in your chair one day, and I had to warn them. And it was just so happened that she was a classmate of mine and went to your church, and that was Sheila and Randy Ogle.
Oh, yeah.
And they were sitting in your chair, and I saw you come, and I said, Sheila, you're in big trouble. Well, she knew who you were, so it all worked out, but I remember that.
The story behind Sheila Ogle is that I married her and her husband when I was pastor at Sunny Slope.
And she had no idea she was sitting in your normal place. Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was all right, though.
Yeah. You know, one of these days when we get reopened, we will have you there on your birthday, but I don't know that it'll be your next birthday because we're not real sure where this pandemic is going, and that's only a few months away. We're still struggling with how all of this is going to work once they start making decisions on allowing things to reopen, so on and so forth. For the senior center, because of the population we serve, it could be a while.
Yeah.
And but as soon as we have a birthday coming up, we're going to have a big celebration. For you. Yeah.
I hope they find a vaccination for this.
Yeah.
I've only had 2 major health issues, other than the whooping cough when I was 3, and I caught that from Wanda's brother when we all lived in Idaho. But anyhow, I had a ruptured appendix when I was 15, delivering papers, the Oregon Journal, and I understand I almost died. I was flat on my back for 5 weeks in the hospital, and 4 more weeks at home, flat on my back. And then started a long, hard process of getting up again. And that was when I was 15. And then shortly after we moved to Sunny Slope, I had a ruptured disc in my back, and Fred Deal did the surgery on that. And he did a beautiful job. I have had no problems at all with my back, and he always calls me one of his favorite customers because the surgery he did on me worked.
Well, that's unusual. Backs usually that's a tough one to solve, you know.
Yeah.
So good for you.
Yeah.
And that's allowed you to exercise so well. I'm sure, you know, you're able to move around and without pain, and yeah, that's a good success story. But he's a neat guy, you know. He comes to the senior center as well,
Yeah.
and they've been big supporters of what we do there. Galen, I just want to thank you for spending a few, I don't know, how long have we been here? A few minutes?
Fun to reminisce.
Well, that's why I enjoy the senior center so much is, you know, I was gone for 35 years and I came back, and I get to talk to people that maybe I didn't know them when I was growing up, but you get to talking to people, and there's mutual acquaintances, and of course our interaction there at the senior center, I've had real fond memories of you coming there, and just want to thank you for spending a few minutes with us.
You're sure welcome.
And
Fun to do.
The next time you have a birthday and we're open, you're going to be there. We're going to have a big celebration.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just arrange to have the pandemic under control by then.
Right.